What's up, guys? I got the keys here, back with another video. So I want to tell you that you're not stuck, right? You just keep restarting your life. And I want you to be honest with me here, right? How many times have you told yourself, this time I'm going to change, right? I'm finally going to do this thing. I'm finally going to, take action on this, whatever, okay? It's like you get motivation, right? You start doing the right things. You start moving with inspired action. And then, like a week later, right? You fall off and you feel like you're back at square one, right? Like you just fell back into the old pattern. You fell back into the old self. So you end up restarting again, trying it again, and again, and again, right? But the problem isn't you. Okay. It's not you that needs to, completely change, right? Um, it's more about how you're going about doing it, right? How you're going about changing. Um, and, you're relying on motivation instead of building something that, you can actually stick to, something that you can stay consistent with. And, um, for example, um, when I wanted to quit weed and I wanted to quit mushrooms, but I kept doing them. And I was like, why do I keep falling back into this? Even though I tell myself I'm going to stop. Right. Um, Ultimately, I was comfortable. Right. I was comfortable with how, weed made me feel and that I felt safe, in that zone. And because weed showed me a calm nervous system in the past, I associated that with that, right? And so for me to actually quit, I had to make the decision to stop, and every time I would be offered, I'd say no. And that was my consistency, was that I chose every day to not do it, right? And still to this day, I still choose not to. I still have thoughts. I still have thoughts about going back, trying again, right? But then I would go back on all my progress. I've been a year sober, if not more, right? Um, it's the same thing with doing the gym or getting in shape, right? I had to, like, at first when I started, I was I was maybe do it like 2 or 3 times a week, right? And it'd be like 1 20-minute workout or 30-minute workout, right? Just like a beginner type of thing. But as I went along, I started to realize if I don't stay consistent with this and start changing up different routines and adding in some healthy eating and blah blah blah, right? Learning all this new stuff about how to get in shape and blah blah blah. If I didn't do any of that, I wouldn't be where I am, right? And I had to stay consistent. I still have to stay consistent to this day because if I don't, then I lose all my progress, right? I go backwards. That doesn't mean you can't ever take a break, right? But sometimes you have to show up even when you don't feel like it. And even with videos, I when I would only make one a week, it was like that I didn't feel like that was enough, but I wouldn't do more, right? And it was all because I was relying on my motivation. I was relying on, oh, like, what do I talk about today, or like, what do I blah blah blah. But it's like, just get on the camera and just talk. It's not complicated, right? And it took me a while to learn that, like, I'm literally just coming on here and being myself, right? I don't have to. It doesn't have to be some exaggerated, um, made up version of myself, right? This is just who I am. Um, And, ultimately I learned that if I don't stay consistent, I don't get viewers. I don't get subscribers. I don't get people interacting with the videos because I'm not staying consistent. They're not seeing the videos in the algorithm, right? So it's like the same thing with life. If you're not consistent with what you're working on and, et cetera, it doesn't show up in your reality, right? Um, so, like it's like real change doesn't come from starting over, right? You have to stay consistent with that thing that you've been pushing towards, no matter what drops in your way, no matter what comes. And it's like it only comes from staying consistent. Like it's the part that nobody wants to hear, but that's the truth. It's like if you're not consistently taking action on the things that you're trying to achieve, they don't happen. Okay. Um, there's these people that like in the manifestation community that will just tell you like you don't have to do anything. You just keep it in your imagination and whatever. Okay, but what about inspired action? What about taking the moves to get you where you need to go? And I understand that's a 3D thing, right? To take action. But if you're not taking any action, then the manifestation doesn't move. It just stays in your mind, right? So you have this mental picture, but you're not taking anything towards it. And it's like like I get it. It can be hard to push yourself to actually do the thing. But once you start doing it, it locks in. It becomes a habit and a routine, and it becomes easier and easier and easier. It's like anything else, you didn't know how to walk when you started, right? As a baby, you were taught to walk, and now you can walk just fine without even thinking about it, right? It's the same idea, okay? Um, so, if you feel like you keep restarting your life, right? You don't need a new plan, right? You need to actually stick to one of them and work on that consistently. Because if you keep jumping from one thing to another, then the old one never gets finished. And, I can say that from experience. Like I said, with the things I told you guys today, it's like if I didn't stick to choose with, like, if I didn't stick with this and keep going, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I mean, 98 subscribers might not sound like a lot to some people, but for me, that's a lot, right? Um, because even when I was at zero, all I was wishing for was 50, right? So I could get to lives and start doing lives, and I do want to start doing some more of those too. So hopefully in the near future here, some lives will be coming up, but it's just part of the little game you play, right? Um, so if you want help figuring that out, I would love for you to reach out to me. My email will be down in the description. Okay. If you want to send me a email saying I need help, you know, put your name, blah blah blah, and we can get it all scheduled out. Um, it'll be 30 minutes for $20. So, with that being said, I would love if you guys would like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you're going to be working on in the next few weeks, and I want you to drop a comment on where you're staying consistent in your life or where you're not, right? And how you could work on that. So again, like, share, subscribe, get it out to more people because people need to hear this stuff. And I know I needed to hear it when I was going through it. So, and I still need to hear it sometimes. I'm not perfect. Um, so yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.